Good morning, guys, and welcome to the show, Fernando.
Welcome to the show, guys.
Today we are going to take a look at the soon-to-be-released Lx1300.7, the new 7-channel, the new LX series amplifier from Kicker. That's right, we got one. We've already showed you the controller, which was part 1. This is part 2, where we're going to unbox it. We're going to show you all the bits and pieces. And of course, there will be a part 3, which is where we dyno all of the amplifiers in here. And there's a bunch of them to get numbers off of. But before we do that, we need to see what we got. So let's open this thing up and take a look inside. Anytime we get a new product in and we're getting ready to do an unboxing, before we open it up, I like to look at the box because it tells us a lot about the product we're getting ready to talk about. Over here in the corner, we have a lot of information. Let's take a closer look. First, we're going to start with signature Kicker sound. Kicker power always exceeds rated power. Compatible with stop-start technology. That's cool. Fit Plus, which is fail-safe integration technology, which if you get really close in here, it says advanced input design, and then it says it again in 3 other languages. Pretty cool. 1 ohm stable. Moving down into the bottom corner, we have 7-channel amplifier, and then those same 3 languages. Part number. Moving over onto the other side, total power 1500 watts of dynamic power, 730 watts RMS power rating at 2 ohm, all full range channels, 630 watts RMS at 4 ohm, all full range channels, and 700 watts RMS power, that's the 1 ohm, sub channel. Now what this is telling me right here is, even though we just saw that sticker that said 1 ohm, this is the only channel that can do 1 ohm. Don't make that mistake thinking that these full range channels, that's the other 6 channels, can do that. It's only this one that is 1 ohm stable because it is the subsection. It says 6 channels, full range with high power sub channel, dynamic dash remote, included control center. If we turn it on to its side, we get a cool Kicker logo. We get works with most source units, 1500 watts dynamic power. So this is the same thing we saw on the front. The sides say the exact same thing here, other than this top corner here has the part number, barcode, you know, that cool stuff there. Looking on this side, same thing minus the barcode. But when we flip it over to the back, this is kind of like the holy grail. These are the 3 languages. These are the ones we're concerned with here in the US. We also get the schematics of the product. Let's jump in and dig deep, shall we? Contains amplifier, LX control center, LX remote control and cable, high-level input harness, and mounting hardware. Then we have some points here of note. Incrementally dial in entire system with the included LXCC control center. Monitor and adjust with the included LXRC dash remote. Class D designed for lower current draw, longer play times, and lower operating temperatures. Gain match LEDs show you perfect gain settings. Customize the appearance with reversible center plate and RGB LED accent lighting. The next bank of information goes over all of the power ratings. RMS power watts in the 14.4. We have the 2 ohm rating, 150 by 4 amps 1 and 2. 65 by 2 amps 3. 4 ohm stereo is 125 by 4 on amplifier 1 and 2, and 65 by 2 on amplifier 3. Bridged mono, 250 by 2 if you bridge amplifiers 1 and 2, and if you bridge amplifier 3 is 130 by 1. RMS power watts and channel at 14.4 volts for amplifier 4, aka subwoofer. Continuous power, 1 ohm, 750, 2 ohms, 550, 4 ohms, 300 watts. Dynamic power is 1500 watts. Frequency response is 20 to 20 for the full range channels, and sub channel is 10 to 160. And then it goes on from there and it talks about signal noise ratio, input sensitivity, which is low level 125 millivolts to 5 volts. High level is 1 volt to 40 volts. That's right, 40 volts of high level input. That means you can hook this directly into some of those amplified systems like in the BMW and whatnot, some of the Bose systems that have that higher output voltage. 40 volts of input, that's crazy. Selectable electronic crossovers at 24 dB per octave, Linkwitz Riley. And if you go back and watch part 1, cover all of these crossover points that are available to you. But zooming over here, one last thing I want to show you is this thing right here, which is a Kicker QR code for scanning to get the owner's manual. Of course, right now it is not available to us because the amplifier is technically not out yet. And we tried. We did try. Let's open this thing up. Here we go. First off, right here on the top, we have the birth certificate. Ooh, who doesn't love getting the birth certificate when they buy a new amplifier? I love it when manufacturers do this. I think it's a really nice touch. It makes me want to buy a frame. It really does. I'm not going to, but it makes me want to buy a frame. I'm super excited about this one because this one comes in at $15.95. That's a cool number, right? I mean, I just like the way that kind of rolls out. We have the model number, which is the 51 Lx1300. If everybody's ever wondered, this has to do with when this is a timetable for them, when the product is actually going to exist. That's why, but you guys never see that stuff. That's more for us when we order things. Total harmonic distortion, passed. Signal to noise ratio, passed. Protection circuit, passed. Serial number, flipping it over to the other side, it says stop. Contact Kicker Tech Support if you are putting this in and have any problems. QR code is also located on this. Important, right here. It says important. Kicker recommends a professional installation performed by an authorized retailer. You are solely responsible for safely mounting and wiring your product. Importante. Okay, now that we have that out of the way, where do we start with the cool box? Do we start with the knobs? Oh, it's a struggle, I know. Or do we just pull it all? Okay. This here is the cable for the controls that are going to be mounted up front, which are located right here. This is the new controller for the LX series amplifiers. Tucked in the back here are some screws, 2 to be precise. Let's take a closer look at this. First glance, you see this cool shape right here, and you're like, oh, that's pretty neat. And you know, it has this like whole big thing, and here's where your knob plugs in. There's some screws on the back, but then you'll notice there's some threads back here hiding. The reason for that is that this is a nut that untwists and comes off, and then you can pull the metal piece out if you don't want to use it. And then you have this second back here that allows you to adjust your depth depending on where you want to mount this thing. And then this will go back into the front. And this is about the size, what looks like a power port on a dash. But for precise, it is exactly 1 inch. Very nice. If we come over onto this side here, yeah, right at 1 inch. That means you're gonna need a nice inch hole, which means you'll wanna get one of these bigger uni bits like this that goes up to 1 inch. In this case, this one goes up to 1 3/8 inches. So be careful when drilling it. You don't wanna make it too big. This has a bunch of lights that go around it that light up to do different things. It also pushes to change the functionality of it. Next up, we have the LXCC controller right here. And as I said, if you haven't checked out the first video we did on this, that's the video where we dig deep into how this thing is going to be used on the amplifier. And you do have to understand how this works because there are no controls on the amplifier. They're all in this. Now let's pull this bad boy out of here. Ugh. And we notice some stuff underneath, bag of silicone, and another heart/paper bag. Let's take a look, see what we got. The piece of paper here is a copy of Kicker's power chart. This has a bunch of voltage numbers on them. So if you're trying to get a corresponding wattage output out of your amplifier, you can use this to cross-reference. Now, this amplifier does have peak light indicators to show you when you've maximized out. So you really don't need to necessarily worry about this so much because it'll tell you when you're doing it. But if you want to check and verify, you can do that simply by cross-referencing. So if we wanted to get 65 watts on amplifier 3 at 4 ohms, we should be putting around somewhere around 16.12 volts. This is kind of cool to have. Also in the bag is the Allen key. It takes 1 Allen key. There's 4 about 1 1/4 inch screws to screw the amplifier down, as well as the 8-channel high-level input. Let's take a closer look. Each one of them is labeled, starting with the white. They say what channel they are. are. In this case, this is amp 1 left. The gray will be amp 1 right. The green will be amp 2 left. Then we have amp 2 right, followed up by amp 3 left, amp 4 right, and then the green and purple say sub right, sub left. It's gonna take that signal in, and if you put a left and right into it, it's just gonna sum the two together for your subwoofer. Finally, we get to look at the amplifier. The back side of the amplifier has the serial number. Flipping it over to the front, it's heavy. Seriously, this is a heavy amplifier. It is a whole bunch of stuff packed in a very small suitcase for sure. The first thing you see is the cool Kicker logo here on the top. This is held on by magnets and designed to pull off because you might end up having to mount it like this. So it easily comes off. This also exposes the LEDs. One of the really cool features of this amplifier is personalizing these cool color stripes on the amplifier. That is underneath here. We have the LEDs. And if we hit the first button here on the left, it allows us to toggle through all of the colors that are available to us. I'm going to get back to red because I think Kicker should be red. Next, we have a brightness. Hit it once, it'll dim it some more, dim it, and then it just goes off. Like if you're like, I don't like lights, hit it one more time and it'll turn it back on. The other thing you might notice about the amplifier is there's no screw holes anywhere on this, but yet all the connections are located here. The reason for that is this piece here, which is also magnetically attached. Two pieces of metal right here attaching to these two magnets. Slides right into place, slides right out of place. And underneath there are the only controls on the amplifier. These four red pieces here are the main gain for the amplifier. These are also where your peak lights are built into. Let's take a closer look. Amplifier 1, amplifier 2, 3, and sub. Gain match is showing you that it's going to blink. When it's blinking, you've gain match. You've turned the gain up as far as it will go. It has a nice smooth turn to it. There is a slight cut in here. Like these are really easy to turn with your fingers, but if you're a screwdriver guy, you can still put a screwdriver in there and turn it that way. I like the fact that you don't have to though. I mean, we've all sat there and tried to do this pushing really hard. This is nice and smooth. And what happens is the LED is located behind these, and as it distorts, this will light up to tell you that it is peaked out. To demonstrate gain match, we've hooked the amplifier up and we're pumping a signal into it, and we'll slowly rotate up our gain knob here till our light comes on, just like that, and then we'll back it down to where it goes away, and now we've managed to set up our gain. The layout of the amplifier goes as follows. All the way over here on the left side is the subwoofer input for positive. This is where you will put your Allen key here to tighten up and down the positive. The silver spot here, which you'll see when we flip up the amplifier, is for the negative. Next up is ground, remote, 12 volt. Coming over to this side, we have amp 1 left and right, amp 2 left and right, amp 3 left and right. There's a switch located right here for DC offset on and off. DC offset is for if you're going to be using the high level input, if you'd like to use the input signal to detect to turn on the amplifier so you do not have to run a remote turn on, push that switch. Let's flip it up. The amplifier has a very nice layout as far as organization and how this is going to work. My brain, thinking clean wire wise, I really like the layout of this. The sub down here off to its side away from these makes a lot of sense, makes it easier to run. There's that negative. Allen screw will go in like so. The power and ground inputs in this are a 0 gauge, and it does draw 150 amps of current. So make sure to use your wire distance chart so that you can run the appropriate size wire into these. The high level to low level plug is positioned here, and it goes in with the clip towards the top. It'll snap into place with white towards the subwoofer and purple towards your speakers. RCAs are laid out very uniformly with white on top, red on the bottom, amplifier 1, 2, 3, and sub. Amplifier input selection. This allows you to decide what signals are going to be feeding into the amplifier by turning on and off these switches. So if you're just going to be putting channel 1 into here, you can turn it on so that each one of these in turn feeds the next set of RCAs. That's very helpful if you're just doing, let's say, front, rear, and sub, or if you're just doing front and sub. Bass knob controller as well as the LXCC cables are going to plug in right here. And then we have an over-under speaker wire connection. Just like the subwoofer, our screws are located here for the negatives across the bottom. The positive screws are across the top of the amplifier. It's also telling you that bridged is left positive and right negative. And that's all the buttons and dials and everything this thing has. Everything else is controlled from this thing here, which is kind of nice. But since we have the amplifier and we do have a screwdriver, I think now it is time to pull these 5 screws and see what this thing looks like inside. Like, why is it so heavy? Here we go. I mean, I'm just kind of staring at it for a moment. That was the quiet point there, because it has a lot. That guy right there, that's Fernando's logo, and not my Fernando, that's their Fernando. Way to go, Fernando. Look at the bus bars over here going down to the circuit board. These things are gigantic. Even the subwoofer ones are huge as well. Let's take a closer look at some of this that we can see. Obviously, we've got a lot going on here that it's, you know, circuit boards with parts underneath them that we can't see. Let's zoom in and take a closer look, shall we? Starting here with the power input size. These bus bars are measuring in at 3/4 of an inch. These things are huge. And they're solid all the way down. 0.3 inches on this, plus they're about 1/8 of an inch thick for that subwoofer section. Extremely overbuilt for sure. Power supplies inside of the amplifier. There's Fernando's cool circuit board art up here at the top. This was made in 7/29 of 2024, and it is the LX1300. This is MP1, which I'm sure means something for them. Coming over to this side over here, we can see all of our speaker inputs, and they're just as thick as the sub and just as big. Wow. There you go. You kind of see how thick they are there. Looking at the amplifier down inside, kind of get an idea of what's underneath those circuit boards. We'll flip around to this angle here. There you go. And a whole bunch of capacitance as well. You can see this shiny piece right here. There's a whole nother layer that's underneath this. It's on both sides. It goes the whole length of the amplifier. Well, hopefully one day we're gonna talk to Fernando and kind of have him go over some of the inspirations for what he's created here, because this is definitely, like, this whole side here, I've never seen anything like this. It's really cool, that is for sure. But that would also explain why this amplifier is so heavy. I mean, it's solid amplifier for sure. Now, one of the cosmetic cues that we didn't talk about yet is, I'm looking through the sides, there's actually vents here on the amplifier, and if we flip the amplifier over, we could see them here on the end where we have this nice Kicker logo, and there it is. There's that vent across the top here, and if we flip it over, there's another vent on this side as well. Now, one of the things that I just saw that was interesting is I was looking at this here. So this preamp section was not made at the same date as the power section. This was made on 5/29 of 24. There again, FP for Fernando. Shows like how long these amplifiers do take to make, where certain portions of it will get done before others, before the release of the amplifier. Is pretty cool for sure. Now, along with this LX1300.7, there are several other amplifiers in this lineup that you might be interested in. First off, there is the LX850.1, 1250.1, 1650.1, and 3000.1. Like, yeah, we got some serious power coming our way. We also have the 1200.5 and a 4-channel, which is the LX500.4. So this will be a bunch of amplifiers for you to mix and match and come up with the right combination to power up your new system. Personally, big fan of the 7-channel. That's why they sent it to me, because there's so much we can do with this amplifier and those power ratings. One of the things that they wanted to point out is amplifiers 1 and 2 are your high power outputs at that 125 watts. Amplifier 3 is at the 65 watts, that you may want to be putting your tweeters on that channel if you're doing a 3-way system. If you're doing front and rear, in my mind, I'm putting my rears on channel 3. You can also use channel 3 to power up a center channel if you wanted to do that as well. That's why they put that smaller channel in there. There's a lot of combinations that you can do, but we all know amplifier 4, which is sub, is going to go off to that subwoofer, and with this thing, there's enough power to do lots of combinations. Take your pick. Get one of those new cool truck L7 boxes. Yeah, this little guy in there to power everything. Ooh, yeah, that could happen. This would look great in an F-150. Right. Anyways, let's end it there before I start getting a little drool on the amplifier because this thing is so sexy. Fernando, if you please.
On to the next one, guys.
Thank you guys so much for watching this. Stay tuned for video 3 where we're gonna put this thing on the amp dyno and see what it does. And that's what I mean. There's a lot of channels we need to test to validate and make sure that this thing is putting out the wattage that we're hoping it will. So stay tuned for that. You guys have a great night as always, and we'll see you later next time.
Bye.